Despite his extensive hockey knowledge and his animated, sometimes excited descriptions, not to mention his custom made dress shirts with the stiff 6-inch collars that held his head high, Don Cherry and his famous Coach's Corner were finally done in by you people. No, I don't mean that you got him fired. It was his occasional reference to, quote, you people that caused the brass at Hockey Night in Canada to give the coach his pink slip. When Grape said you people, it was aimed at a certain segment of society, and it was deemed derogatory. So he had to go. And now here we are, all of us, facing a dramatic restructuring of our society to better reflect another certain segment that we collectively have often called those people. I'm talking about people who face challenges in life, people who have always needed our support, but for nearly 200 years we put them out of sight so that they might be out of public mind. These are people with physical or sometimes psychological challenges, but they are nonetheless people, nonetheless worthy of our support, our friendship, and indeed our love. About 200 years ago, through our government, we established what were then called the poor farms. People who could not pay their bills were sent to these farms to live. They were expected to work the farms in return for their room and board, but they were not paid for their labor. And it is that second fact that is the shame on us, because they were required to live at the poor farm until their debts were paid. Of course, with no income, the debts were rarely ever paid, except possibly by family or maybe the kindness of a stranger. And over the 2 centuries, we began to realize a lot of these folks could not really be expected to get jobs in the first place. They seemed to lack certain capacities. And slowly, we began to admit that isolation on the poor farm, sometimes known also as the poor house, was not very appropriate at all. Advocates began to lobby for support services, and in many cases for medical help. As time passed, we changed the name of these facilities to Homes for Special Care. And while we were treating them with a gentler touch and some compassion, they were still living in institutional care. They weren't really homes, they were really just houses where a whole lot of people lived, and sorry to say, out of sight and out of public mind. Did we come to our senses finally and realize the truth of these institutions? No, not really. In fact, not at all. Instead, we were dragged into change by a decision of the Supreme Court, which ruled that such homes were absolutely inappropriate, and we were required to provide a remedy, and hence the Nova Scotia Remedy. It's to close these institutional homes and find more appropriate living quarters, allowing the residents to have personal choices of where and how they would like to live. In other words, they could make choices just like you and me. Certainly, they need help, and that remains our communal responsibility. But we will offer that help in new ways, in full integration with our community. In short, those people are moving in with us. And after 200 years, they will no longer be, quote, those people. They will simply be us. At least, that's my view. I'm Bill Martin.